So then, in this video, I think it's time to go and explore Uncle and Auntie. This is Uncle. And this over here is Auntie. I don't know why someone thought it was a good idea to name this tower Uncle. That's just very fucking weird. But anyway, these two towers are Elephant and Castle. And Auntie Tower is famously crap, because it's got an Otis Gen 2 for 36 floors. Sometimes I am speechless by how shit some of these lifts are in these towers. Who in their right mind thought an Otis Gen 2 was a suitable lift for this job? It is so under spec. Meanwhile, over in Uncle, which is 44 floors high, so 8 more floors than Auntie, this actually has an Otis high-rise lift. Now, Otis and high-rise are two things you just don't hear together that often, because Otis installs very few high-rise lifts in the modern day, because the high-rise market is dominated by Cone, Mitsubishi and Schindler, and they make very good high-rise lifts. Meanwhile, Otis high-rises just don't get them that much. Compared to their Gen 2s, which are everywhere, on the Otis high-rises, no one seems to really want to install them. The actual ride quality of the Otis high-rises does feel a bit substandard compared to the competition. They sort of wobble their way up shaft quite a bit. They don't feel that stable. It's all a bit Otisy. Although, what I find odd is, on Otis's mod lifts and on their high-rise lifts, they don't have shaft door protection, unlike their Gen 2 lifts, when they do. And another thing about these Otis high-rise lifts, this lift goes 3.5 metres a second, and with the slight wobbliness in the shaft, I was not looking forward to seeing what kind of chassis it'd have. Turns out, it's actually got a good chassis. That was a shock to me. I did not expect to see a 3.5 metre a second Otis lift with a good chassis. This is the kind of chassis I'd want to see for 3.5 metres a second. That's well built. Surprisingly, for Otis, it's a well built lift. So I do have quite mixed feelings on these Otis high-rises. So before I show you a video of this lift, another thing I'm debating about is on the choice on indicator between absolute precision and accelerated precision. Now, in the UK, it's generally considered the done thing by local culture that lifts should show accelerated precision. This means the indicator changes to the next floor at the point where the lift will deaccelerate to the floor. This is so when you're in the lift, you feel the lift starts to deaccelerate, you look at the indicator and it tells you what floor it's deaccelerating to. It's just how people expect lifts to be. Meanwhile, on cone lifts, they do accelerated precision +1, meaning the indicator shows you the next position that a lift is going to at the point it will deaccelerate. In other words, as soon as the lift starts moving, the indicator ticks over to the next floor. I find it slightly odd, but it still does the trick, because you look at the indicator and it tells you what floor it's about to go to. But meanwhile, other lifts, such as Mitsubishi, always show the absolute precision. This means you know exactly where the lift is, but if you're in the lift and it starts slowing down, you look at the indicator to see what floor it's going to, but the indicator's still ticking over because it's still showing the absolute precision. Which means it becomes like a game of roulette. What floor's the lift stopping at? Well, take your bets and find out. And then you have to wait for the indicator to tick over until it tells you what floor you're actually going to. And people in the UK generally get confused by this because they look at the indicator, expect to see what floor we're arriving at, and the indicator's still ticking over, and that can confuse people. But on Otis lifts, you actually get a choice, because there must be some setting in the lift logic, because on some Otis lifts you get the absolute precision, on some of them you get the accelerated precision. So then, let's now talk about world cultures. While in the UK it's considered a done thing for a lift to show accelerated precision, meanwhile over in China it's considered a done thing for a lift to show absolute precision and not the accelerated precision. And with that said, in this Uncle Tower, most of the residents are actually Chinese, and the lifts actually show the absolute precision, which is less common for the UK. So I wonder, do you think it was a deliberate conscious decision for the lifts to have the settings set to show absolute precision because that is more pleasing to the Chinese residents? Or do you think I'm just overthinking it and no one really has that much joined up thinking in one day? Leave a comment in the comment section if you think that's the case or not. Anyway, let's now take a look at these lifts. And let's now surf them. So, that's Uncle Tower complete. It's now time to go to Auntie Tower. This tower's not actually called Auntie Tower, it's called One Elephant, which is a very boring name. I call it Auntie because it's next to Uncle. And let's face it, the weirder things are, the more rememberable they are. So, into Auntie Tower, with 36 floors of Gen 2 shitness. All the floors are locked in the lift, and we need to get on the roof. So the only way to the roof is to surf the lift, a very long lift surf. Who's rattling?
Oh, this is a nice head torch, right? Have you surfed this one before?
Yeah, that's times. This is London's tallest Gen 2. It's disgustingly cheap for a number of floors. That's the plus version because it's got bigger cables, but still for that many floors it's not good enough. Got a slight chassis on it.
How many floors is it? 30 more?
They're not even halfway yet, we went past counterweight. Under cable. Oh, that's the first time I've surfed 36 floors at inspection speed on a Gen 2. It took fucking ages.
So long. Basically, should have stopped. Wait, that's when I think it reached March. 3, 2, 1, stop. Push it. Yeah, good.
So then, let's now go out onto the rooftop. And now, that's Uncle and Auntie Tower ticked off. So I now leave Elephant and Castle and go along to Chatham. Now at Chatham Dockside, there's actually 2 towers. When these towers were built, everyone complained they were too tall. But I have the opposite opinion, I think they're too small. These are not as big as towers in London. But let's go and roof them anyway. Now, considering in London, towers seem to now be named after family members, I've now decided that these towers in Dockside should be renamed Granny and Granddad Towers. So let's now go into Granddad and go onto the rooftop.
Level 4, Ceramics and Furniture. Doors open.
Good, I'll do that.